The alien council, after weeks of dismissing Earth's silence, finally orders a full-scale strike. As the fleet prepares for the attack, they are forced to witness Earth's final broadcast, a chilling message that turns their entire strategy upside down. The arrogance of the council leads them into an unthinkable trap. The alien council chamber buzzed with growing impatience. The time had come to act. Earth's silence had been nothing more than a game, a pathetic delay tactic that had fooled their lower officers, but not the high-ranking officials. The planet had been reduced to rubble, its defenses annihilated, its communications cut off. The council had waited long enough. "It's time we end this," Girac, the chief strategist, said, his voice laced with a venomous edge. "Earth has shown no sign of resistance, no attempt at defense. They are weak. It's clear they have no intention of fighting back." A snide laugh rippled through the room. Another officer, a massive reptilian alien, scoffed. "This delay has only prolonged their inevitable fate. They're helpless. Let's finish this." The council had been growing frustrated. Earth's silence, their non-response to the invasion, had been read as fear, desperation, until now. The fleet had moved quickly through the stars, obliterating every obstacle in their path. But Earth was still there, still refusing to submit, and the council was losing its patience. "I've had enough," Girac growled. "No more waiting. We strike now. We end this once and for all." A few officers exchanged uneasy glances. "But, Commander," one of them hesitated, "we've already seen their supposed defeat. We've destroyed their satellites, their defenses. What could they possibly have left?" Girac's eyes narrowed as he slammed his fist on the console. "The humans have been lying in wait, playing their cards close to their chest. We've underestimated them, but no more. Today, we end it." The room fell silent as the order was passed to the fleet. A full-scale strike was ordered, the remaining alien ships moving into formation, prepared to annihilate the last resistance. Earth had. They would attack with overwhelming force, bombarding the planet until it was nothing but ash. Girac's gaze never left the screen as his fleet launched, the energy of their ships filling the void. "We've waited too long. Earth's final mistake will be underestimating us once more," he muttered, but the unease in the room had not disappeared. They had no idea what awaited them. Hours later, as the fleet reached the outer orbit of Earth, the alien council received an unexpected transmission. The ship's communications officer spoke in a trembling voice. "Commander, there's something coming in from Earth, a broadcast. It's unlike anything we've seen before." Girac's eyes narrowed as he leaned toward the screen. "What is it?" The officer hesitated, unsure of how to explain it. "It's a message from Earth, but it's strange. It's not just a standard transmission. It's some kind of final broadcast. A warning." Girac's lips curled into a mocking smile. "A warning from the humans. What do they think they're going to do? Send us a message begging for mercy? Let's see what pathetic attempt they have left." He signaled for the transmission to be played. The image on the screen flickered to life, showing the cracked and ruined surface of Earth. The visuals were stark, the planet's remnants now a barren, scorched wasteland. But there was something else. The broadcast wasn't just a call for help, it was a statement, a final message to the stars. The voice that followed was deep, hauntingly calm, and unmistakably human. "We have waited in silence," the voice said, its tone steady, "watching as the galaxy thought it could erase us. You thought you could break us. You thought we were finished, but you were wrong." Girac's smile faltered. His eyes widened as the voice continued. "You believed we were powerless. You believed Earth was just a broken world, ready to be claimed. But we've been preparing, and now the true force of Earth will be revealed." As the words echoed through the chamber, the council members fell silent. The screen flickered once more, and the images shifted. Towering warships, once hidden beneath the surface, began to rise from the depths of the earth. Massive, imposing ships, ancient, formidable, loomed on the screen. Earth's final weapon is not just a ship, it's a living, breathing force. And we've been waiting for this moment. The voice paused, and the council members watched in growing horror as the enormity of the situation became clear. These were not just weapons of destruction. These were the Leviathans, Earth's final safeguard, hidden for millennia, a force no empire had ever seen. Jirac's jaw clenched. "What have we done?" The voice concluded the broadcast with one final chilling statement. "You thought it was mercy. It wasn't." As the transmission cut off, the chamber was filled with an eerie silence. The image of the Leviathans rising from Earth's surface burned into their minds. The arrogance of the council, their mocking dismissal of Earth's delay, it had all been a lie. Earth had been waiting, building, preparing for this very moment. And now it was too late. Jirac slowly turned to his officers, his face pale. "Prepare the fleet to retreat," he said, his voice shaky. "We've made a grave mistake." And that was before Earth even responded. The room was silent, save for the soft hum of the alien council's monitors. No one spoke. No one moved. The council members sat in their seats, faces pale, their once sure grip on the galaxy slipping through their fingers. They had been so certain, so arrogant, and now Earth, that primitive backwater world they had dismissed for centuries, had shown them the cold, terrifying reality of their miscalculation. Jirac stood at the front of the room, his fists clenched, his thoughts racing. The broadcast from Earth had shaken him to his core. He had expected defiance, maybe a plea for mercy, but not this. Earth had revealed the truth in one simple sentence. "You thought it was mercy. It wasn't." The implications were staggering. Earth had been preparing for something much more than survival. It had been hiding a power, an arsenal of ancient warships capable of shaking the foundations of the galaxy. The Leviathans. Massive, terrifying, and now active, Earth's final safeguard had been awakened. Jirac's eyes darted to the faces of his fellow officers. They were as stunned as he was, their minds still processing what had just transpired. No one had expected this, and worse, Earth had made sure they didn't understand the full scale of the threat until it was too late. He finally spoke, his voice colder than ice. "We were wrong. Earth was never weak. It was waiting for us to make the mistake we just made." One of the council members, a hulking alien with dark, leathery skin, shifted in his seat. "But how? How could they have hidden this force from us for so long? And why didn't they retaliate sooner? They had to know we would come." Jirac took a deep breath, steadying himself. He knew the answer, but it was hard to admit. "They waited because they knew we would underestimate them. They let us believe they were weak, let us think they were powerless, and now they've made sure we'll never forget." The council members' eyes widened. "So what do we do now?" Jirac's mind was a storm of conflicting thoughts. The Leviathans, Earth's ancient warships, were a force unlike anything they had ever faced. There was no record of such vessels in the Council's archives. The size, the power, they were beyond comprehension. The broadcast had made it clear. Earth had not just survived. Earth had evolved, adapted, and had been preparing for this very moment. He looked out the viewports of the council room, staring at the stars that had once seemed so familiar. The universe felt smaller now, more fragile. The balance of power had shifted. "We need to strike back," Jirac said, his voice full of cold determination, "but not with the same arrogance we had before. Earth's response isn't just about weapons, it's about their will to fight. They've been waiting for this moment. They are not afraid, and they will not surrender." Another officer, a slender alien with pale skin, leaned forward. "So we're going to attack again, but with what? The Leviathans are too powerful. Our ships were obliterated in minutes. Even if we throw everything we have at them, we don't have the luxury of time." Sherrick interrupted. "If we don't act now, Earth will have full control of the galaxy within days. We've underestimated them for far too long, and now we've given them a chance to take the upper hand. This time, we need to be smart. We need to hit them where they're vulnerable." "How?" the council member asked, his voice tinged with desperation. Jirac's eyes narrowed as he considered the situation. Earth's ships were too advanced, too powerful. They couldn't be defeated in a conventional battle, but there had to be a way, a weakness, something Earth hadn't anticipated. "There's one option left," Zirac said, his voice firm. "A final strike. We'll target their core, the heart of the Leviathans. If we can disable their power source, we can destroy the ships. It's a long shot, but it's the only chance we have." The room fell silent again. The officers exchanged uncertain glances. It was a dangerous gamble. If they failed, the fleet would be completely destroyed, and Earth would rise uncontested. But Zirac's resolve was unwavering. If they didn't try, if they didn't act, they would have no future. Earth had proven its strength, and now it was their turn to prove theirs. "The fleet will prepare for one final attack," Zirac said, his voice carrying the weight of finality. "We will target the Leviathan's core. We'll need to strike. Fast, strike hard, and if we fail, at least we'll go down fighting." The Alien Council was divided, but there was no more room for debate. The only choice left was to strike, to face Earth's overwhelming power head-on. The arrogance that had once guided them, the belief that their empire was invincible, had been shattered. Now, survival was the only priority. As the final preparations began, Zirac stood alone, staring at the image of Earth on the main screen. The planet, once thought to be insignificant, now represented everything they had failed to understand. Earth's silence had been the deadliest weapon of all, and now the galaxy would pay for that ignorance. His hand hovered over the command console as the countdown to battle began. This would be their last stand. It would be a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The fate of the universe rested on the outcome. Zirac's fingers pressed the final button, and the fleet moved into formation. The attack was imminent. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. Zirac stood in the command center, his eyes fixed on the view screen, watching as his remaining fleet positioned itself around Earth. The tension in the room was palpable. The Council had given the order. Strike Earth with everything they had left. The fate of the galaxy rested on this final assault, and yet even with their overwhelming numbers, Zirac couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking straight into a trap. "Fleet is in position," one of his officers reported, her voice tight. "Energy signatures from Earth are rising. They're preparing for something." Zirac nodded, a dark realization settling in his gut. Earth wasn't just waiting for them. Earth had known they would come. The Leviathans had proven that. They had seen what Earth was capable of, a force that had been lying in wait, patient and deadly. The broadcast had shown them that much. "We proceed," Zirac ordered, his voice cold with resolve. "Initiate the first phase of the attack. Target their fleet defenses." The fleet began its descent, the alien ships cutting through space at breakneck speed. The Leviathans had already engaged their energy shields, creating an almost impenetrable barrier around the planet. It was clear that Earth was ready for war. But Zirac couldn't afford to hesitate. They had to act now, before Earth's defenses became too entrenched. "Commander, the Leviathans are powering up," another officer said, her voice quivering with fear. "They're moving—" The words were cut short by a deafening sound, like the roar of 1,000 storms combined. The fleet's scanners detected a massive surge of energy as one of the Leviathans fired its first shot. The beam shot through space with incredible speed, its trajectory aimed directly at the alien flagship. "Shields up!" Zirac shouted barely. A second before the impact, the ship rocked violently as the energy beam collided with the shields, sending a shockwave that rattled every structure aboard the flagship. Systems flickered, alarms screamed. Girac could feel the tremor in his chest, but there was no time to think. They were already in the heart of the battle. "Return fire," Girac ordered. Alien ships immediately retaliated, launching waves of energy blasts toward the Leviathans. But the weapons barely made a dent. The Leviathans' shields absorbed the blasts effortlessly, their advanced energy systems rendering the alien weapons almost useless. It was like throwing pebbles at a wall of stone. "Report," Girac demanded through gritted teeth. "We're not making a dent," his tactical officer replied. "Their shields are absorbing everything. They're moving into position for another." "Attack!" Girac's heart pounded as he watched the massive Leviathans maneuver in space. Their sheer size, their elegance, and the terrifying power they held were on full display. It wasn't just a battle anymore. It was a massacre in the making. "We can't outgun them," Girac muttered to himself. The realization hit him like a ton of bricks. The Leviathans were invincible in battle, and his fleet was crumbling under. Their sheer might, there was no way to defeat them head-on. "Redirect all fire at the Leviathans' power cores," Girac shouted. "We need to disable their engines. If we can't destroy them, we'll slow them down." The command was relayed across the fleet, but it was already too late. Earth's final weapon had already turned the tide. The first Leviathan unleashed another devastating pulse, this time striking one of the alien ships in the rear. The ship exploded in a flash of light, sending debris in all directions. Girac's eyes widened in horror. It wasn't just the destruction of the fleet that terrified him. It was the realization that Earth had thought of everything. They had anticipated every move, every strike, and their response was perfect. He slammed his fist on the console, frustration boiling inside him. "Why didn't we see this coming?" he whispered. "How could we be so blind?" Suddenly, the communication officer's voice rang out. "Commander, there's something else. A new fleet has just arrived." Girac froze. Another wave of alien ships, larger and more advanced than anything he had ever seen, appeared on the far edge of Earth's atmosphere. These ships were unlike any the galaxy had ever encountered. Sleek, powerful, and radiating with a deadly energy, they closed in rapidly on Girac's fleet. The reinforcements Earth had kept hidden, ships that had been lurking in the dark reaches of the solar system, waiting for the moment to strike. "It's over," Girac muttered, the weight of his defeat settling over him. "We can't win. This, Earth, has already won." The new fleet, more deadly than anything Girac had ever encountered, began to intercept the alien ships. With their firepower overwhelming Girac's already weakened fleet, it became clear that Earth was not just defending itself. It was annihilating everything in its path. "Prepare for retreat," Girac said, his voice hollow. "We need to fall back. We've lost." But even as he gave the order to retreat, the full scale of the disaster hit him. There was nowhere left to run. Earth had won. They had played a long game, and now they were in control of the galaxy's fate. Girac could feel the hopelessness closing in around him like a vice. "Commander, we can't—" one of the officers started, but Girac cut him off. "I know," Girac said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know." With that, the fleet began to break apart, ships fleeing in every direction, but the damage had already been done. Earth's Leviathans moved in, unstoppable, their engines blazing with the force of their victory. As Girac watched his empire crumble, he knew that the galaxy would never forget what had just happened. Earth had been underestimated, ignored, and dismissed. But now, as the alien forces retreated, Earth stood victorious, a power unlike any other in the galaxy. And as Earth's final broadcast played again in his mind, he understood it all. Earth wasn't just defending its planet, it was asserting its place in the galaxy. And that message would be felt for eons to come. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. The retreat was chaotic. Girac watched helplessly as the alien ships scattered into the void, each one attempting to escape Earth's grasp. But the Leviathans were everywhere. Earth's new fleet, faster and more powerful than anything the galaxy had ever known, moved with terrifying precision, picking off the last remnants of Girac's forces one by one. The once proud armada, built on conquest and domination, was now reduced to fleeing survivors. Girac felt a bitter emptiness settle in his chest. His fleet, his empire, everything they had built was crumbling. Earth's silence had been their greatest weapon, and they had been fools not to see it. He had been right all along. Earth was never defeated. Earth had simply been waiting for the right moment, and now it had shown its true strength. "Commander!" An officer's voice broke through Girac's thoughts. "We've lost most of the fleet. We can't outrun them. We're being surrounded." Girac didn't respond. He didn't need to. The truth was clear. Earth had done what no one thought possible. It had dismantled their empire with a single, well-executed strike. The once mighty alien forces had been humbled, and now Earth was poised to dominate the galaxy, its leviathans wreaking havoc across the stars. Girac clenched his fists, fury bubbling inside him. "Prepare to initiate the final protocol," he said coldly. "If we cannot escape, we will ensure that Earth feels the cost of this war." The officer hesitated. "Commander, you mean to destroy ourselves?" Girac's gaze hardened. "We have no choice. Our defeat is inevitable, but we won't let Earth claim complete victory without paying the price." The officer nodded, understanding the gravity of the order. The alien fleet was finished. The remaining ships could barely function, and Earth's forces were far too advanced. But if they couldn't escape, they would ensure that the enemy would feel the sting of their destruction. It was a final act of defiance. As the countdown began on the flagship's self-destruct sequence, Girac felt a heavy weight on his heart. He had led his people to the brink of destruction. He had believed in their superiority, in their unshakable control over the galaxy. But Earth had shattered that belief. In the end, it wasn't their weapons, their technology, or their numbers that had won. It was their patience, their will to survive, and their willingness to endure the impossible. Earth had not just survived, it had become the galaxy's true power. Girac stared at the empty void on the viewscreen, watching as the last of the alien fleet was consumed by the Leviathans. The ship's countdown continued in the background, but his mind was elsewhere. Filled with the realization that they had failed, Earth had become the force that would rewrite the fate of the galaxy. Outside, in the depths of space, Earth's Leviathans stood victorious, their massive forms dominating the cosmos. The new fleet, now fully engaged, continued its ruthless march, dismantling the last remnants of Girac's empire. Earth's message was clear. They would no longer be overlooked. They were no longer a planet to be ignored. The final alien ships were crushed, their defenses no match for the sheer might of Earth's technology. And as the last ship disintegrated, the galaxy stood still, waiting. Earth had won. But what would happen now? On Earth, the human leaders watched from their command center, their faces grim but resolute. General Carter stood at the forefront, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the remaining remnants of the alien fleet. "We've done it," she said softly, her voice filled with quiet triumph. "We've made sure they'll never forget what they did to us." Her assistant, Lieutenant Steele, nodded. "We've turned the tide. Earth is no longer a victim. We are the ones in control now." But Carter's face remained somber. "This is just the beginning. We've proven ourselves, but we can't stop here. The galaxy will know that we are no longer just a planet. We are a force." Her eyes swept across the room, her gaze unwavering. "The next phase is already in motion. Earth will reclaim its place in the stars. As she spoke those words, Girac's final act of defiance detonated in the distance, a flash of light that echoed through the cold reaches of space. But it was too late. The galaxy had already learned its lesson. Earth had proven that silence wasn't weakness, it was strength, and now Earth would be the power that ruled the stars. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't.